And I'm just watching his face in these images as Barack Obama makes his vote selection. And there doesn't seem to be any sort of a semblance of sadness there, I suppose, John. You know, given that this is a man who lost his beloved grandmother, what, a day and a half ago. She was, you know, pretty much a stand-in mother for him, by all accounts, and has been for years and years. Has he given much of himself away from what you've seen in the last 36 hours or so as to how he's feeling and whether it's going to affect him at this late stage in the game?
Well, you know, I think one of the things that's remarkable about him is that from the very outset, he has proven himself to be a man who masters his emotions. He's not an emotional figure. He's an exceptionally calm-looking man, and even in moments of national and international crisis, he has been visibly, at least, remarkably even-keeled. And that's certainly been the case since he learned of the death of Madeline Dunham, the woman who basically was his surrogate mother while his own mother was out of the country spending years in Indonesia when he was a young man. He lost his father at a young age. His father abandoned him and then subsequently died as well. So he lost both of his parents. This woman was a key figure in his life. He mentioned her in just a few moments in North Carolina on Sunday night. But no, you'd have no sense that this is a man who suffered an enormous loss. Under the circumstances, he's about to win the presidency of the United States, according to every measure we have. You can understand why, in the larger scheme of things, he'd be keeping his eye on the business at hand. But this has been the hallmark of Barack Obama from the very beginnings of his candidacy. He is not a man who betrays a lot of passion. He's not a man who betrays a lot of worry. He's not a man who betrays a lot of emotion. He's a very cool, maybe even cold figure in public, and he has been remarkably calm, remarkably self-assured, and in the last 36 hours since that loss in his life, remarkably resilient. Anjali?
And in the ballot box right now to Barack Obama's right is his wife, Michelle. She's been, you know, pretty visible on the campaign trail of late, doing the talk show rounds and that sort of thing. What do we know, John, about what sort of a first lady she'd be if indeed she were given that position?
Well, once again, the point needs to be made. She'd be the first African-American first lady. She'd be the first woman who has, frankly, a slightly different vision of America than we have seen before. In the early days of this campaign, in fact, her speeches were far more critical of the United States than we normally hear from the wife of a candidate for the presidency. And she was, frankly, in some criticism for saying at one point that she hadn't been even proud to be an American until her husband started running for the presidency. Michelle Obama is a woman of enormous poise, enormous grace, and she brings those attributes and her enormous intelligence. She was, in fact, is a very successful attorney. She was Barack Obama's boss. That's how they met. So she brings that professional training. She brings her enormous magnetism to the campaign. She will bring it to the Oval Office if he's elected. And what kind of first lady she turns out to be really remains to be seen. Hillary Clinton really, she created a whole new model of First Lady. She was very involved in policy. She emerged as a political candidate on her own. And we could see that from Michelle Obama as well. Despite those early missteps, she emerged as an incredibly articulate and magnetic campaigner for her husband. And so we could see a lot of Michelle Obama. If Barack Obama doesn't win, maybe even if he does, we could see a second Obama emerge into the American political scene, and that could be Michelle Obama. She is that good with crowds. She's that successful in her encounters with the media. She has learned to do this, and she does it very well.
So if he wins, he won't be inaugurated until January. Indeed, if John McCain wins, he won't be inaugurated until January. What happens between now and then?
Didn't catch the end of that, but no, you're right. What we're going to be in is a very bizarre position. This has not happened in a long, long time. We're going to be in a position where there is a president in the White House and there's a president-elect in the U.S. Senate. If Barack Obama is that man, we're going to, in fact, have two presidents who don't really agree with each other. Obama has himself said more than once that this country only gets one president at a time. But keep in mind that the United States is in the midst of an economic crisis now, a financial crisis of global proportions. And so Barack Obama, if he's elected, John McCain, if he's elected, will be expected to have a big, big role in what will happen come January, a role that's so big that the world, the country can hardly ignore their opinions between now and then. So you'll have a president in the White House who is increasingly sidelined. He's been virtually invisible in the course of this campaign. A president in the White House who's virtually sidelined, and a president in waiting in the U.S. Senate, maybe even crafting legislation in the Senate as the Congress moves to address this financial and economic crisis, a situation unlike any we've really seen in an awfully long time, if ever before. Two contrasting and competing centers of presidential power, one on the way out and weakened by that, one on the way in and not yet, as a result, fully able to embrace the power that he is going to have.
And John, just let me remind our viewers as to what we're seeing now. There's Barack Obama there as he finishes voting in Chicago, Illinois. Also down the side of the screen, we're looking at live pictures from Philadelphia in Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania, obviously, extremely important for both McCain and Obama to win in this election. That's the pictures that we're running right now in the top square. In the bottom square is Wilmington, Delaware. That's where we should see vice presidential candidate for the Democrats, Joe Biden, very shortly coming to cast his ballot as well. So, John, as we watch Barack Obama winding up his personal voting process, let me ask you what exactly people are planning to do as the results come rolling in. I mean, I know over here in Hong Kong there are actually plenty of events organized for people to watch on the big screen and watch networks like CNN as we count each and every single win in each and every single state. What are people where you are going to be doing?
I think a lot of people are going to be standing where I am right now. Now, you can't really get a sense of how big this park is. It is enormous, and oddly enough, they've placed us in the media very close to the podium where Barack Obama will be speaking. There'll be an enormous crowd of about, people are saying, 1 million people. It will be big. An enormous crowd out that way. People who'll be waiting, who'll be watching the results, and that's here in Chicago. I'll be very honest with you, back in my home in Atlanta, everyone I know will be watching television, waiting to see what actually happens. Anjali?
John, I appreciate it greatly. Thank you very much indeed. Jonathan Mann there in Chicago, Illinois. And that's Barack Obama also as he leaves the polling booth where he has been for the last 20 minutes or so in Chicago.